Now, it's going to be a big week in Scotland, which could determine the fate of the First Minister, Nicola Sturgeon. There are not one but two reports due into the way in which the Scottish Government mishandled complaints of sexual misconduct against Alex Salmond, and whether Nicola Sturgeon personally broke the ministerial code by misleading the Scottish Parliament about what she knew and when. Well, we're joined now by the Scottish Health Secretary Jeane Freeman. If Nicola Sturgeon is found to have broken the ministerial code, should she resign?
Well, we don't have either of those two confirmed reports yet, so we're getting a bit of ahead of ourselves. The most important one is actually the independent inquiry into whether the First Minister breached the ministerial code that she referred herself to in January 2019. We expect that report this week, and that is the one where James Hamilton, the QC, has looked at all of these matters, and he will produce his conclusions. That's the one that is genuinely independent and objective, and we will see what that report says, and then the First Minister will take the necessary decisions after that.
A poll for Sky News found that 51% of people thought that Nicola Sturgeon should resign if she broke the ministerial code. Just 35% said she should stay in her job. And she, of course, has spoken about the importance of it too. When she launched the ministerial code in 2018, she said, "I'll lead by example in following the letter and spirit of the code." Surely, if she is found to have broken the code, she needs to go, doesn't she?
Well, the First Minister has led by example throughout, and I think the public, particularly the public in Scotland, have seen how open and frank her leadership is, particularly over the last year when we've been dealing with the pandemic. The committee report is not yet concluded. What we have is unattributable briefings and leaks from that committee, which is actually, as it happens, against the MSP Code of Conduct. So the situation here is important, it's serious. What's most serious, actually, is that the Scottish Government made serious mistakes in handling and implementing the policy on harassment. And the people who have suffered most in that are the women who brought those complaints. That's what the committee was supposed to be looking at. But even before the First Minister appeared in front of that committee and for 8 hours answered their questions, even before that, the Scottish Conservatives were calling for her resignation. So I think we can dismiss some of that, at least, as a bit of partisan politics, 40-odd days out from a Scottish election, and focus our attention on what the genuinely independent report from Mr Hamilton QC says when we receive that, I hope, this week.
Not long to wait for that. I'm keen to talk to you about COVID as well, because, of course, we've had these issues of vaccine supplies, a delayed shipment from India. Nicola Sturgeon saying this week Scotland is going to have 500,000 fewer doses over the next month than anticipated. What does that mean for the vaccine rollout in Scotland?
Well, what it means is that there is a lot of... We model every single day the anticipated supply against the scheduled appointments. We think, having remodelled on the basis that those 500 doses will not come when we expected them to come. We do expect them to come later, but they won't come when we thought. We still believe that we're able to meet our commitment, which was that we will offer a vaccination appointment to everyone in those JCVI priority groups 1 to 9. So that's everyone over 50 and those people with underlying health conditions, the clinically extremely vulnerable and unpaid carers. And we believe we're still on track to do that and to have vaccinated all adults over 18 in Scotland by the end of July. And we're over 2 million vaccinated now. So we keep looking at it every day. What we have to be sure to do, though, is make sure that not only can we deliver first doses, but that we are delivering the second dose, which is very important, within the 12-week window. So that's the work that's underway. And as of today, we still are confident that we can meet that mid-April commitment, and we'll keep on looking at it every day. I look at it every day, and my officials work on it constantly.
Of course, primary schools in Scotland have been reopened for some time now, the youngest pupils going back on the 22nd of February. You must have some data coming in by now. What does it show when it comes to rising cases?
So there's been a small uptick in cases, but it is small, and we keep an eye on that all the time. The case positivity number, which is also one of, as you know, one of the important bits of information that you look at all the time, remains relatively low, but we just monitor this all the time. And we've said in all the steps that we've set out, the First Minister set out on Tuesday just gone, about how we intend to ease restrictions 2nd of April, 5th of April, end of April. All of that, of course, is dependent on continuing to keep virus numbers low and bring it down, case numbers down, even from where it is just now, on the one hand, and be able to deliver the vaccination programme on the other. So we remain cautiously optimistic that we're still on track. But I think everybody knows, all your viewers will know, and certainly those in Scotland know, that this is a constant exercise, and what we are desperately trying to avoid, so the approach is cautious, is a return to a third lockdown. Nobody wants that. Individually, for people's mental health and well-being, seeing family and friends, but also in economic terms, and absolutely in terms of people's health.
Just finally, on a quite different subject, if I may, a Rangers football player this week, Glenn Kamara, said he was been racially abused by a Slavia Prague player. Now, I'm not going to repeat the words because, frankly, they are far too offensive. But for months, footballers have been taking the knee for Black Lives Matter. If no action is taken in the face of racist abuse, is football just playing lip service?
Well, of course, it is up to the football authorities, the club and the football authorities, both in Scotland and I think internationally. But I would hope it's not enough to be against racism. You've got to actively be anti-racist. In the same way as you have to be actively anti-misogynist, you know, it's not enough to say, I'm not racist. You need to call it out and deal with it. So I would hope that the proper investigation is done there and that the proper action is taken. Because really, in this century, we should be well past insulting and dismissing and diminishing fellow human beings on the basis of their race, their colour, their sex, any disability. These things are just ridiculous in this day and age, and we need to do something about it.
OK, Jeane Freeman, thank you very much for being on the programme. Thank you.
Thank you.